You are watching Acro Critique video number 4, this time with Dave Prather, who's flying a Staudacher S600, flying through the Advanced Known sequence for 2019. Very excited to take a look at what he's doing. I know Dave from the Nationals. He flies intermediate at a pretty high level, pretty good level, and he's thinking of moving up. You know, people ask sometimes when they're ready to move up, and I always tell people, you're ready whenever you're ready to take on the training requirements of the next category. There's no real set reason to move up. Maybe you got a little bored. Maybe you've already achieved all you can in that category. In my case, I moved it up from advanced to unlimited without being a really awesome advanced pilot. I just felt like, you know, clock's ticking, I'm getting older. Why not move up? And that's a good reason. As long as you're ready to take on the training requirements of unlimited, it's a great category to be in. It does take a lot of time, and so does advanced. Advanced is a job, really, to become good at advanced. So let's watch Dave and see how he's doing. Now, these videos come in from all over. People send them to me and ask me to take a look. I'm not just going around the internet and finding videos that I can go critique. They send them to me and ask me for their help. Just so you know, I'm helping Dave along here, and I hope we can learn some things together from his flying. So we're going to follow this. Now, this is the Advanced Known sequence for 2019. I'll put the sequence up on the screen for you so you can follow along a little bit. It starts with a bow tie, which would be a pull to 45, 1.5 rolls, then pull vertical down, pull up on a 45, full roll, and then push. That's the first figure. So let's take a look here. And Dave is going to be wagging in for us. We can see the sequence card right there on his airplane, so you can follow along there. And here we go. We're going to pull first to a 45, which is a little bit steep. That's okay. I've mentioned this before. It's good to be steep. Steep is to your benefit. That might be a little bit too steep. Looking at the sight gauge there, it's at least 10 or more degrees, I think. It's hard to say, but it's quite steep. So maybe dial it back a little bit, but it's not bad to be steep at all. And once you're at an angle like that, if you're into competition and you're a little steep, just leave it. Don't worry about it. You'll be surprised how often you get away with it. Let's see how his 1.5 rolls go next. And it looks like he over-rotated. What I like about this, very important, that you always roll with full deflection and you stop very briskly. It's very important not to look for the stop and try and make the angle perfect. It's okay just to take the stick over there and bring it back when you think the roll is over. That's the right technique. If you do that over and over again, eventually you'll start hitting the stops in the angle you want. It's important to train your body. I think you're probably also a little shallow on this, Dave, but let's continue on and see how it looks. A little short after there. Now we're going to pull vertical down. And that's good. You can look out to the side window and look at the sight a few times to make sure you have it calibrated, but that looks like you're probably pretty close to vertical. Now a little steep, and that looks just about right there. I like that. We have a full roll. Looks like you're maybe a little steeper after, and getting a little steeper as you get slower. So just go ahead and make sure you're on the same line the whole time. And now pushing level. That'll be figure 1. And now figure 2 is a push, a half loop down. We should be pushing rather gently, like we're coming off the float in a loop, and then increase the push towards the end. This looks pretty good. Quarter roll, and then 3/4 roll opposite, which looks good. It's a good second figure. Now let's continue on to figure 3. Figure 3 is a double Humpty. So pull the vertical. Looking at the side window, that's good. You can look at the side window a little later, and you were positive before, and now you're a little bit negative after. So if we go back and look at that, when you're positive before a quarter roll, then we'd expect to have a wing low. Yeah, so let's take a look at this here. After the quarter roll. So this is going to be a 2 of 8. These stops are a little soft, a little drifty, and now you're negative after, and the wing's a little high. Now pulling over the top here, looks like you closed okay. I think you might have been a little slow on top, so it looked like you were sagging a little bit through that 3/4 snap. I want to go back and look at that as well. And what I'm looking for is see if the rudder went in. I do think the rudder went in. I think that the rudder went in, but the aileron came in probably too soon. You should be unloading straight forward and then hooking over. Too much aileron too quickly. Now this here, we look like we're very positive. Yeah, in fact, we are for sure very positive. Make sure we pull all the way to vertical. And you might have been graying out there a little bit, possibly, just looking at what's going with your head. So that's very positive. Okay, now we're supposed to be laying out inverted for a spin, but you're so slow that that's not going to happen. So wagging out now probably, and then we'll come back in for the spin. Okay, good stuff so far. A lot of good things going on there, and we'll let you. So the next figure is inverted spin. It's an end figure, beginning with a spin, and then 45 half snap. So it's not starting the figure yet. We'll just talk a little bit while we're waiting for him to come back around. So when we're going to do a spin, we need to have the nose up really high, very nice and high. You need to get a good stall in, need full rudder deflection in. We need to let the nose swing. I mentioned this in a previous video. All 3 axes have to move simultaneously, so a really good spin entry will look like this. That's what we're looking for when we watch it from the cockpit. A little bit of obscuration there. All right, looks like he's going to set back up. And some wags. Actually, so this is interesting right here in the wags. This is an important thing that I've noticed in a couple other videos. This is a good illustration. In the wags, the nose is actually drifting to the direction of the wag. And that's because there's not enough enough down elevator support. And I'll show this here again. So let's wag once. Now in the first wag, we can see this road right here. Right? In the second wag, we can still see a little bit. In the third wag, we can't see it at all. Right? So every time the Dave is wagging in, the nose is coming off to the right. A little bit more each time. And the reason is that during the wag, we have to push to stay on the line that we were on. And you'll have to actually keep that down elevator in as we roll back to 45 down, upright. You can't relax that right away. If you relax it, once you get to 45, the nose swings over, and then you're off heading. And people will do this all the time when they're wagging in, and it's confusing for them, but that's basically what's going on there. So make sure you give good support, down elevator support during the wag so you can keep your nose online, and keep watching for that in your videos so you can get better at that. Okay, let's keep going here. In fact, you can kind of see a little bit of leftward pull at the end of the wag to correct that. So that's what he's doing to correct it. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to pull vertical, I imagine, because we're going into figure 4. It starts the inverted spins. This is not really part of the figure. Now we're negative on this vertical line. Doesn't matter. It's not part of the figure. Okay, we're going back to the double Humpty. So 2 of 8. Those a little more crisp. That's good. And now I'd like to see the pull begin possibly a little earlier. 3/4 snap now. It was a good pull at the top. That snap, I'm really sure you need to make sure let's make sure the rudder's all the way in first off in that 3/4 snap. Just looking at it, it looks like a lot of roll. It doesn't look like a lot of yaw. So pull foot all the way in. Must be all the way in and must stay in as you hook and unload. It will feel different, I believe, when you have that down. It doesn't look like it. It's very hard to tell from video, but I believe that it's not quite getting, not developing into a snap roll the way it can. Now, 3/4 snaps, they're tricky. We can't really get a really well-developed snap roll, but it can look more like a snap than that does right now, I believe. Okay, now we are pulling up to vertical again, and now this should be the layout into the inverted spin for figure 4. So this is the end of figure 3, laying out inverted. Nose can be higher here before the spin. Throttle should be all the way back now, pushing forward, and then the spin starts off pretty good. It looks a little rolled heavy towards the end, but it's a good spin. And now we're going to pull the 45 up, a little steep again, maybe a little correction there, half snap. Hard to say because your head is, I can't really see where the cockpit's lined up during that, but looks pretty good. Pull the vertical down. I'd say you're a little positive down here, a little correction. Not necessary to correct, and then pull level. Okay, figure 5 will be pull the 45 up, 2 of 4, push to up to vertical, and then hammerhead. 1, 2, looks pretty good. A little under rotation, that's okay. And then push a little short after possibly on that, a little bit negative going up. One thing you could do that would help, I did mention this in a video, I see that the sight was lower to the horizon and then you kind of brought it up, which is, if you think about it from the vantage point of the pilot, that's doing this, right? When the sight is laying on the horizon, then the airplane might be angled this way, and bringing the sight up means the airplane is yawed a little bit. So somewhere there you're maybe trying to get the sight line up. Before you do that, I mentioned this before, it didn't make sense to some people, but what I was suggesting is if the horizon's supposed to be lined up right here or back here, it's tough to do. You could add a little extension maybe, but if the horizon's supposed to be lined up somewhere like this and this line here, I'd put a piece of white tape right here so I could see. Now if it's, like I said, if this is correct, that this line must be off the horizon, above the horizon, then you could add a little extension so you can see maybe a little ball at the end or a disc, so you can see that that is lined up with the horizon. It's very important that you are not misaligned, and it's too hard to look out both windows to see if they match. But I don't like the part where during the line there's a lot of change going on, it's better just to get it locked in and hit it really hard with intensity and then live with it. Okay, enough of that. So now we have our hammerhead, which looks pretty good here. And a little positive, definitely towards the end there. It looks like you became positive. Make sure you're using down elevator. That looks negative, which would make sense because it's a half snap. So I believe you were positive before the half snap. Now we're going to go to figure 6. Figure 6 is an S with a 4 of 8 on the 45. So pull. Okay, no reason to look out the side window at this point. You should be looking straight ahead in all of your pulls. Look straight ahead until the horizon is no longer visible in front of you. That will help you see if you are pulling at an angle or drifting the nose one way or the other during the pull. That's very important. And really, in a loop, there's no reason to look out the side window at all. I think that we sometimes get trained to do that when we're just starting out with loops. But by the time you're flying advanced, there's just no reason at all to look out the side window. So I don't think you need to do that. Now we look forward. Okay, good. You should definitely look forward, especially for this part, as you lock on the 4 of 8. As you're coming over the top of the loop, you can get a little float in, just a touch of a float, and then towards the end, you bring it down to the 45. What you want to show is a good separation between the horizontal flight, the pull around the loop, and then the stop on the 45. You want to show that there are 2 distinct lines, and they are connected with a looping segment, a 5/8 loop. It's good to show a little bit of exaggerated connection between the line and the looping part. Okay, now we're looking for a 4 of 8. 2, 3, 4, and this is another one where I can see the nose moving to the right. So I think that's another example of how you could do that a little differently. And now we're pulling over the top here, dragging out a little bit. Now on this pull, on the second pull in the S, it's good to keep the pull just going. There's no reason, you do have to make them match. You want them to match, it's better, it's prettier. But it's also important that you have speed on top for whatever's going on up there. In Unlimited, it could be a snap roll. So we have to keep the speed high, and we need a pull to make that happen. We take our 45 down, and then we pull all the way through to the top. We don't float very much on this at all. We don't really float on either of them very much, but the first one I think can get a little bit of float. The second one doesn't need it. Okay, now we have a 1.5 roll on the top, and I think you might be anticipating a little bit. It's always hard, but it's important that we don't anticipate any of these things. There should not be a line between the loop and the roll, but it shouldn't begin before the loop finishes either. It's important to pull smartly to the line, pop, and then roll. Oh, and maybe you've actually pulled a little bit of an angle there and you're fixing it, so make sure you're pulling cleanly. A little bit of anticipation, not too bad. Okay, good. And now, I don't know why you just chopped the throttle. I'm hearing the throttle is down lower. You have a roller. You'll need speed for roller. Better to keep your speed up. Okay, now this is let's go back. This is a 273 outside rolls. So we're going to start this over again, and we're going to watch it. And what I think I'm going to pay attention to this time is what's happened with the rudder, because I think that's important. All right, let's begin this now. So you're starting with the rudder. That's good that you're using the rudder to lead. You should, but it's a little too much. And then now we need right rudder already. Right rudder, and now left rudder. And now left, and then right rudder comes in. Right rudder, right, very hard right rudder. So that's kind of the rudder situation. Looks like a lot of your pulls are okay. I think you got off there. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but that's okay. I don't want to go over it in too much detail because we've talked about rollers already. Pulling to vertical, a little positive up. And chopping the throttle again. I don't know what the reason is. I don't see a reason, but there might be a reason. You could be worried about the limit of your airplane or how high you're getting. Okay, 3/4 roll. That was a little short after on figure 8. Now figure 9 is a 2 of 2. Over. Okay, that's really interesting too. This is a good flight because this is really illustrative of some things that I think are important to know. In the 2 of 2, you rolled very well. You took the stick and you pushed it to the side. It looks like you went to full deflection. I like that. You brought it back to center. Good. You also didn't hit the stop. You were off on the angle. But that's okay. You're going to make mistakes like that. It's better to make them. I like that one. I did not like the one right after in the 2 of 2 where you then rolled a little softer without full deflection, and when you brought it back to center, you found the angle you wanted instead of stopping it at an angle. It's just much, much better from a judge's perspective to see you stop it right where it should stop. it looks a lot better. You're going to lose some points when you make a mistake. That's true. But you're going to gain it back with all the stops that hit. It's important you gain those points back. Those are the points that make the difference between first place and second place at the high levels of competition. You just have to be able to do it. And the only way you get there is by just forcing yourself to do it and make that mistake over and over and over again. And eventually your body sorts it out. It does happen. It will happen for you. And it's just much better than feeling your way through it. Now, I went to the WAC in 2017 in South Africa, and I flew exactly like that every single roll. There's a story behind that. Of course, I jumped to a different airplane. I also was sick. I didn't get to practice a lot. I wasn't very familiar with the airplane. Those are excuses that don't really matter. The bottom line is I wasn't prepared to fly. And I flew just like that. I had to, I felt. And instead of making big errors and angle all over the place, I instead made very, very soft stops. In retrospect, if I would have made hard stops and just overshot and undershot, I probably would have scored better. I was feeling my way to the stop almost every single time. You can see it in the flight videos, and it really showed up in the scores. So there's something to just be aware of. It's something I've really tried to avoid over the last year and a half, and I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it. So here we go. Do a 2 of 2, stop hard, stop soft, very soft stop. Okay, half loop up, and on top we have a 4 of 4, 4-point roll. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay, good. A lot of good stuff in there. And the wag out. Hey, a lot of good flying in that. Looks really good. You obviously had the break between figure 3 and figure 4. That's no big deal. You didn't have the energy you needed. That's just because you're not used to the sequence yet. Give yourself plenty of energy at the bottom. After the 3-quarter snap, let yourself get to the speed you need to be. Pull very hard. Just pull back to the position you need for the G's you want at the bottom of that pull. And then release when you get to the vertical line again. Maybe you don't need to wait so long on the vertical line. You can just then pull to a very high nose high position in inverted flight for your spin. If you are worried about having too much energy, that's not really a big concern. If you have the nose very, very high and you pull the throttle back, usually the plane slows down very quickly. So it's a little better to pull when you have maybe a little too much energy rather than too little. It's very hard to stretch it out and start sagging into the spin. So it's better to have too much energy. Give that a few tries. Okay, big takeaways for you that I see are holding all of your lines. Your 45s need to be very consistent. Your verticals need to be very consistent. They don't need to be correct right now, but they need to be. You need to stick with them. You need to hit a line and enjoy it and stay with it and love it. It's perfect. There's nothing to worry about. Nobody can see the mistake. If it's there, it's out of your mind. The moment it happens, move on, and don't ever second guess yourself in those lines. That's number one. Second one would be the same thing with the rolls. Roll really, really hard all the time. Pop the stick back to center at the end of the roll. Enjoy it. Whatever the angle is, don't worry about it. You can make it up on the next rotation or blend it out during the next pull. Either way will work fine. I think those are big. The roller, I liked how you led with rudder. It's a little too much. The nose shouldn't swing quite so much before the roll begins, but it's the right idea. The rudder has to go in and the roll starts. Now, to some extent, I kind of respect what you did. I kind of did the same thing for a long time because it would remind me, as I was going through the roller, it would kind of remind me of which way I'm supposed to go. And I would not be confused if I let the nose go that way and then started the roll. I would use that sort of to remind myself of what I was doing. But ultimately, they need to start at the same time as much as possible. You will lead a tiny bit, but not that much. Let's see. Other than that, all of the rolls, I think you're probably letting the nose drift too much. I think it's just, I mentioned this, I think, in a couple other videos already. So I'm really seeing a theme with people that that when the plane goes from inverted to upright or knife edge to upright, especially, the down elevator support that's in there needs to stay in there for longer. It can't be relaxed or the nose swings. And then once it swings, you can always make up for it with some rudder and fix the line. But it just doesn't feel the way it should feel. It should really feel like in all of your rolls, all of them, it should feel like you're rotating around some point in your body, not that you should be, moving around in the seat. And that's what it looks like to me. Is there's some area there where you're correcting, and I would imagine you're feeling that in the seat. So when you feel that, just remind yourself, oh, I must have let up on the rudder or the elevator a little bit too soon. And then I think on all the pulls, I'm a little worried. I can't tell from the video, but I'm a little worried that in some cases, as you're going on the vertical for the Humpties, that you're getting a little too slow and you're actually kind of falling through, and then you're able to bring the plane back to vertical briskly at the end, but I'm not sure it's really going to look like a half loop. It's just so hard to tell from the video, but that's kind of what I suspect right now. So just pay attention to that, see if it's doing that, sort that out on your own and become confident in that one way or the other. Have someone on the ground watch you. It's the best way. And in fact, I think you're at the stage of flying where you can just have critique from someone on the ground quite a bit. You'll get a lot out of that. Okay, so where to go from here? I've got a lot of ideas for other videos, technique videos, and reviewing. I want to walk through at some point, do a video on how some people fly at the whack level, so you can see as even as an observer what they're doing that really looks crisp and nice. I want to show that to some people. I also want to go through and show some spins from the cockpit and also from the ground. I have a lot of ideas for technique videos from talking to people. I've also got a queue of, I don't know how many, but several videos of critique, opportunities that I can work on. That's great. I'll just start working on those as well, and I'll start releasing them. I was thinking maybe doing one of these videos once a week or something like that. Maybe I could do more. I don't want to do too many. I don't want to bore anyone, but I'll mix it up with some other things. And I just hope you all enjoy it. So thanks for coming by my channel. Very good to see you all again. And I look forward to our next visit together.